Hello, everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Daily, presented to you by FanArch. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight, coming to you from the southwest corner of Washington State, 2,454 miles from Little Caesars Arena. Now, before we get any further into the program, I'd like to give you all a big thanks. Yesterday, the channel had its 5,000th view, and that's over just 13 videos. We're on our 14th right now. Our most popular video is at about 900 views. We've got a couple in there in the early stages of the channel where we haven't even hit 3 digits, but we're at 5,000 and counting. And I want to thank you all for it. So keep on subscribing, keep on commenting, keep on liking, keep on viewing, keep on keeping on. Now, the Red Wings tonight are going to have to keep on keeping on by taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets on the road for the first of 6 games to be played away from Little Caesars Arena. Now, the last time these two played, the Red Wings won 4-3 in overtime, but some of the key things to remember about that game was the fact that Columbus out-hit them 16-12, outshot them 35-33, had won over 57% of the faceoffs, and led 3-1 halfway through the third period. So over a span of 11 minutes, including 2 minutes in overtime, the Red Wings scored 3 straight goals to end up with the overtime victory. So that defeat obviously stung a lot for the Blue Jackets. Whether or not they, have that still sticking in their craw coming into tonight's game, we'll see. But one thing that the Red Wings probably on paper have going for them is the fact that there's 5 injured players on the Blue Jackets: Marchenko, Monahan, Olivier, Gudbranson, and Jenner. And the Red Wings, really, their injured roster has only got one name on it, and that's Appleton. So we'll have to see how things pan out. Maybe a healthier squad and fresher legs for the Red Wings, not having to call people up from the AHL like obviously the Blue Jackets must be doing with 5 members of their team on the injured list. 3 of those are on IR, so obviously those definitely won't be making the game, but a couple of them may even be a game time decision. But I don't want to wish for bad health for opposing players, but I do wish for an easier roster to play against, and especially with the momentum that the Red Wings have after beating the Bruins Tuesday night at Little Caesars Arena. You'd hope to start this road trip, especially before jumping from Columbus to go all the way to Seattle, and then the rest of the West Coast swing. So we'll just have to see how it pans out tonight. Now, with it being Thursday and it being more of a travel day or an off day leading up to tonight's game, it's always good to do a little bit of throwback. So we're going to go back 30 years to the Western Conference Final, Game 5, between the Blackhawks and the Red Wings. Red Wings were up 3-1 in the series, going to double overtime. 10 seconds into overtime, playing over the arena speakers is the Eagles' Heartache Tonight. Somebody's going to hurt someone before the night is through. Somebody's going to come undone. There's nothing we can do. I think I might have butchered that lyric a little bit, but still, whatever. Obviously, kind of a foreshadowing song going through the speakers. There was chances by Joe Murphy early for the Blackhawks. It actually hit the crossbar. This is in double overtime. Mike Vernon in goal. He got above Vernon's glove side, hit the crossbar. Obviously, that would have made the series 3-2, going back to Chicago, I believe. But things didn't turn out that way. Vyacheslav Kozlov, off of a pass from fellow Russian 5 teammate Sergei Fedorov, puts one past Ed Belfour. There's a lot of future Hall of Fame names in this discussion, but there you go. Vyacheslav Kozlov nails it, snipes it. Beautiful move up ice, by the way. Splitting defenders, basically getting Chelios to kind of turn awkwardly, split past him, shot it right past Belfour. Wings go to the Stanley Cup final for the first time in 19 years. And everybody was just going crazy. You got to feel for Belfour in that situation. Obviously, we got a future Hall of Famer in Belfour. He faced 47 shots, and the Wings had 29 scoring chances. Vernon only had to face 26 shots. He made 25 saves. Another future Hall of Famer right there. Speaking of names that were on the roster that night just on the Red Wings alone. I mean, we already know that Chelios, member of the Blackhawks, Hall of Famer as it is, but going over to the other side and going over to the wing side, we got Fedorov, Paul Coffey, Stevie Y, Nicholas Lidstrom, Mike Vernon, and even Gordie Howe's son Mark was on the Red Wings that year. So there's some marquee names, and obviously the Wings lost the Stanley Cup Final 4-0 to the Devils, a team they actually hadn't played at all that season because of it was the just to put into perspective, it was a strike-shortened season, and they were just playing their own conference. So the Red Wings really didn't have any taste of the Eastern Conference until that Stanley Cup Final, and boy, were they ever surprised by it and were swept. But looking back on that season, having a double overtime game-winning goal by Kozlov, it was the second game that went 2 overtimes deep in that playoff series. It was the third overtime win for the Wings, the second double overtime win. Obviously, like I said, pandemonium. And we'll get to Mitch Albom of the Detroit Free Press in just a moment when we get to the No Cap recap. But for now, returning to present-day Red Wings, we'll do a little bit of back and forth, kind of like Pulp Fiction style, go forward, flashback. But returning to the now, and honestly, we could say returning to the future, today's spotlight is on Axel Sandin-Pellikka. Now, I know when you say it fast, you thought I said Pelican, but I didn't. And I probably butchered the middle part of that, Sandin-Pellikka. But speaking of, if you were to buy a Sandin-Pellikka jersey, I believe you have to pay about 10% more because that's how many more letters there are in the stitching on a personalized jersey. But speaking a little bit about him on the ice rather than what's stitched across his back, Pelican wears 44. You see, I did it again there. You're thinking I'm saying Pelican. I'm really not. Pellikka wears number 44. Now, I can, as a baseball fan, I can tell you 2 players whose names will just jump right off the page who wore the number 44, and that's Reggie Jackson and Hank Aaron. In hockey, the number 44, and probably the most important, was worn by Mike Bossy of the New York Islanders in that dynasty of the early 80s. But another, and this more importantly, especially to somebody like Axel, is a defenseman, Chris Pronger, who wore number 44. Obviously, more his speed than Mike Bossy, but like I said, Axel, his time on the ice is average around 1853. He hasn't really been scoring lately. His last goal was 3 weeks ago, and his last point was 2 weeks ago. But still, he factors in as a rookie. You don't really expect much out of rookies that weren't on the high signing levels like the Patrick Kanes of 2008 or things like that. What you really hope for from a rookie like Axel is for him to get the wisdom in playing on some of these lines. And so he plays on the second power play unit with JVR. There's your veteran there on the squad. And then 2 fellow rookies in Finns and Danielson, and he also plays with Kopp on that second line power play unit. So here's hoping for a lot more in the future defensively for him. Mo Seider, obviously, we had a lot of expectations for him coming in, and he's really lived up to them. And so hopefully with Axel, playing alongside a now somewhat growing to become more of a veteran in Mo. Mo's only in his 5th season, so I don't want to sit there and say veteran status, but he is such an aged player right now as far as the wisdom he's gotten over the last few years and playing with Detroit, is that's something that Axel can really benefit from. So let's see how those start to pan out and moving forward. So there you go, Axel. You're in the spotlight. And I promise I won't call you a Pelican anymore. Now that leads us back, Pulp Fiction flash back to Mitch Albom of the Detroit Free Press. Now you gotta love Mitch Albom, and you gotta love the poetry that you can sometimes find in the headlines following a game like Game 5 double overtime win for the Red Wings in the 1995 Western Conference Final. So in his column the following day, this is what Detroit Free Press's Mitch Albom said. So this is how you make history. You wait until after the midnight hour, double overtime, when the voices are gone and even the sweat glands are exhausted. Then send a young Russian, whose last name is easier to pronounce than his first, charging down the ice. Have him wind up and fire, and bingo! With the game so exhausting, it took 2 days to play. The Detroit Red Wings finally jumped the moat and are outside the castle, banging on the door with an octopus. Great. Let's throw that through the AI slang translator for today's No Cap recap. Here you go, Mitch. So peep how you make history, fam. You just chill till after midnight strikes. Dead A overtime when everyone's dipped and even your sweat glands are straight up zonked. Then boom, you send this young Russian dude, whose last name's easier to say than his first name, hauling A down the ice. He winds up and fires, and bet, with the game so draggy it took 2 days to finish, the Detroit Red Wings finally bounced over the freaking moat and are right outside the crib, banging mad hard with an octopus. Well, folks, I'm hoping that those banging hard with an octopus are on the horizon, that the Wings can make their way back to the playoffs and back to some of these more glorious moments that they experienced through the 90s and 2000s and even up into the early 2010s. So with this young group and this young core and still the veterans with Larks still factoring a lot and leading the team in points alongside DeBrincat, you got the veterans kind of handling their business the way they're doing, and you got the youngsters taking notes and really looking to fill some shoes when it comes down and hopefully stay in that red and white uniform. So this has been Red Wings Daily, folks. We're hoping for a win tonight in Columbus, and LGRW from the PNW.